another episode of the Silver and Black Coffee Hour. My name is Tom Petrini. I am so excited to talk Spurs basketball with my friends today. Zach Montana, how you doing, brother? What's new?
I'm chilling. Nothing's new. Everything's the same.
Wow, that's bold to
Same,
say.
same 24 hours in the day that everyone else has. It's all the same.
Wow, nothing new at all from Zach. Aaron
Nah.
Blackerby, what about you? What's new on your ranch, buddy?
On my ranch. Well, it would be nice if I had a ranch someday. Uh, I'm good.
A studio
Did it?
apartment could be a ranch, just spiritually, you know?
Sure, sure. Um, I'll pivot to the show though. Today, we're gonna talk. We have some Project Marvel updates for y'all since we last recorded. We also want to talk very briefly about these Trey Murphy rumors that came out from Jake Fisher uh, just the other day. And look, we didn't get to y'all's questions last week, mainly because there was a big Project Marvel thing that a number of questions were coming through, but we didn't forget about y'all. We still have your questions here, and we're going to answer them today on this beautiful day. So, with that being said, Tom, how do you want to guide us today?
I want to guide anybody watching or listening to like, subscribe, comment, tell your friends, tell your enemies. Um, Post it on Pinterest. We're big on Pinterest. That's probably the biggest source of inbound for us is through Pinterest and Tumblr, really. Zach's mustache is quite popular on Tumblr,
Oh,
I've
well,
heard.
the girls love it.
Um, but, you
Also,
know,
speaking of the comments, real quick, I just want to like shout out everybody that participated in the comments last week. It's definitely been a debated topic around Project Marvel. What all is it encompassing? And I gotta really shout out our listeners and watchers. For the most part, the comments were really nice, really cordial, really thought through. So shout out to y'all for participating and really appreciate it.
also shout out to Michael Carlos from the San Antonio Current for stopping by the show. He's an expert on this topic. He's been going to the council meetings and talking to people and doing the work and doing the reporting and extremely knowledgeable on this rather complicated topic. So it was great to have him in here. I I don't know about you guys, but like I felt like I had done the film study when I went into that week, because it was like, I see that what we talked about is what is happening here. And Michael also, after he talked to us, he went and talked to the mayor of San Antonio, who has sort of made herself a main character in this whole thing. And man, just as far as I love Parks and Rec, man, and like the mayor talking to Spurs Jesus is gotta be like that is so Pawnee, Indiana coded. I can't. It's that's incredibly funny content. But it's a really serious topic of conversation. And we got a lot of movement on that in the week. So Aaron, if you wouldn't mind running us through, since we talked last on Sunday, it was like they're going to talk about the strategic pause. They're going to talk about the term sheet. They're going to vote on these things. What has happened since?
Well, okay. Many things have happened since we last recorded on Sunday. We recorded Sunday afternoon, had a very robust conversation, and we were planning on releasing that episode on Monday morning. But Sunday night, there comes out that the non-binding initial term sheet had been agreed upon. I believe Don Harris uh, released that, where city manager Eric Walsh had been negotiating on behalf of the city with the Spurs. And we were like, well, I guess we got to get this out because the news is moving fast on this. The mayor, I believe that same night on Sunday night, um, put forth essentially another um, strategic pause narrative around, wanting due diligence on that. And Then I would say, and then what happened next? Monday afternoon, the Spurs came out, RC Buford came out, responded with, we are upping our contribution to the whole Project Marble to the tune of $2.1 billion. And that was like, whoa, that's a lot of money.
It was $1 billion more than the last number.
Yes. And
Most of that $1 billion going to the private development part
right.
around the
And
area.
it's going to the private development around the area. From there, I think we had talked with Michael, last Sunday, and he was like, the term sheet might be out by Wednesday, but everybody here is playing and waging their various PR battles. New term sheet came out along that. You had RC Buford thanking everybody in the city but the mayor. Very interesting with that. And we initially thought that this vote was actually going to be happening this week on Thursday, the 27th. But the votes did end up, the big two items were items 4 and 5, were then voted on Thursday this week. So the mayor during this time is trying to go on her own PR campaign. Michael Carlos had a brief interview with her. She went on to a few other local news stations. And then, as Tom also talked about, on Wednesday morning, there was, I don't know if it was a protest as much as
No, it was the hospitality. It was all the hospitality people in the city that were coming out to get on it. So I don't think it was a protest. I think it was just their first initial campaign for it.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't think it was a protest with the way it was set up. They
Debuted
like
the type of press conference.
Yeah, they debuted like the slogan they want to use and whatnot.
Right. So the hospitality, and was that, I never really got clarity on this, so y'all can hold me to this. Was that actually in front of City Hall, or was that in front of another building?
I think it was in front of City Hall.
Okay. So that was in front of City Hall, and it happened on Wednesday morning. And the mayor came out to that. And to Tom's point, her and Spurs Jesus got into it. I would say at that point, things kind of really jumped the shark for me.
Very clear jump the shark moment.
Yes. Also, in the middle of that, Mark White, councilman for District 10, had his own town hall where he invited the mayor. Clearly some miscommunication between the two of them, between whether they were going to talk about the city budget or Project Marvel. Pranks on y'all. It's kind of a robust conversation around all of it. So that didn't look good, I felt like, personally, for either party. And then we come to Thursday. Thursday, the actual vote happens. And we had 108 or 109 speakers come up and speak their piece on behalf of Project Marvel. I could not believe that I was actually watching a San Antonio City Council meeting on Thursday morning, but I'm currently fun employed, so I got the time. And so as I was watching that, a number of people came up and spoke. I honestly have been having a hard time of the people that spoke, and I didn't watch all 109 after a while, but I couldn't tell if they were for a full-on strategic pause or if they were wholly against Project Marvel. But there were a number of people that spoke up. The Spurs did show up. Peter Holt, R.C. Buford, Brian Wright, Sean Elliott, sitting in the front row. To begin the proceedings, the mayor actually called up Peter Holt, and we had a real battle of wits.
Maybe I don't think you're describing the situation the way you should in this particular moment. She went through
some color.
The council was not expecting him to come up and talk at that moment. That was not a time for people to come up and speak. That was council time to go over what was going on. So she had to go through, which I thought was a very interesting moment in the whole whatever you want to call it, was they had to call on the city attorney because there was a bunch of objections from people, the city council, like this is not allowed. So she had to call the city attorney who's on stand with them. He had to walk her through the correct way to do it.
File the motion.
And she didn't, and instead of her like repeating the words he asked her to say, she just called him up and he was like, no, like you have to say it. And she gave like this weird eye roll, like, why are you making me do this? Like, I'm the mayor, but it's like, no, this is the correct way you got to go about it. That's what was awkward about it.
Like, procedure.
Right. There was like an awkward 4 minutes up until that point.
This is true. I would characterize that. And then, I mean, personally, Zach, I thought like the more theatrics happened once Peter Holt got on the quote-unquote stand. And so, this is kind of, it was really interesting, I guess. And it's like kind of been a bit indicative of like the online discourse where the mayor asks a question, yes or no, and do you think that this deserves like a second independent study? Peter Holt says, I believe we've already had an independent study. I think the next time the mayor asked it, she said independent 3 times and really enunciated it. And Peter Holt gave the same response, and it eventually just turned into yes or no, Peter Holt repeating himself. And I don't really think that political stunt necessarily worked for her. It did. There was a bit of crowd cheering for Peter Holt after the fact. And then we got into speakers, and a number of people spoke at this city council meeting, people for, people against it. Eventually we get to the vote, and surprise, surprise, the vote was actually pretty, I don't know if Michael Carlos predicted this or a number of other reporters, but essentially item 4 on creating a strategic pause did not pass by a 7-4 vote. The next item on it, item number 5, was about proceeding forward with the non-binding term sheet and allowing city manager Eric Walsh to continue negotiations with the Spurs. That also was passed with a 7-4 vote. So where we are in this whole situation now is that the people of Bexar County, so not just San Antonio, the people of Bexar County will get to vote on the allocation of the $311 million funds on November 4th. Am I missing anything else there, fellas, that y'all want to add in?
I think that's about it. Yeah, it goes to the county voters. That $311 million would be paid for with visitor tax increase. The mayor also wanted to be able to put it to voters to approve the $489 million that the city has agreed to pay for.
Read today that that's going to be a lot harder than said to done.
Right.
Yeah.
Like a lot of things that the mayor has done and tried, and there's a lot of stuff where, on a fundamental level, I am all about I'm a journalist, I love transparency and shit. And so I understand where she's coming from on a lot of this stuff, but also I think anybody can agree, just based on the results and based on what we have seen, that the mayor has not done a good job of building support and a coalition for the pause that she was looking for to get more research and due diligence done. So now that we've sort of gone through the what all happened, any big takeaways from you, AB, on this one?
Well, not necessarily big takeaways from it. My thing at this point, with as it's progressing, and I guess the idea as a whole around Project Marvel, relating to it to city economics in San Antonio. One, I live in Austin. I'm not a taxpayer in Bexar County or city of San Antonio, so take what I say with a grain of salt. I'm not there. I'll actually be there next weekend though, enjoying the city of San Antonio. All that being said, I hope that in the negotiations for this and what goes on with the private development part of this, in the areas surrounding it, whether there's some sort of local business incubator, whether that's for bars and restaurants, or that becomes for other private sector jobs where people can make a good living off of that. That's something that I'd be advocating for. It does seem like this is eventually going to pass, and I do think that the Spurs have uh, won the PR battle as of now. I mean, ponying up an extra billion, like, look, that's hard for me to be like, second study or not, this is what they're doing, and we talked about that last week being from a negotiation tactic. Uh, so yeah, I think the biggest thing that I have for it, and keeping further kind of, I guess, further elaboration on this project as it moves forward and eventually moving into binding terms, is to have areas of this part of downtown that they're looking at developing be for local businesses. Another thing, just to relate to, like, last week, we talked about the Riverwalk and how much of the Riverwalk is around chains and all that. And, um, you know, there's so much good food and so much local culture to be taken from San Antonio. And I do think there can be a vision where you're integrating the new with the old for it. So, yeah. Uh, Hopefully this allows, I mean, we talked about it even in the construction part. You have 30% of local companies contributing into that. So I hope local business gets to have a slice of the pie in this development with it. And if things change between now and when we release this episode and someone wants to correct me in the comments, that's perfectly fine. But that's kind of my say on it at this point.
Yeah, I hear you on that, and I've had a lot of time to think about this and get yelled at on the internet a little bit, and I think that with this project, right, understand why you have to start, and this is, I think, a mistake that the mayor made. You kind of got to start with the Spurs are great. They're fundamentally a part of San Antonio. They've ponied up a lot here, and I think I want this. Like I like this idea, and so that's where I'm at. I think that Project Marvel has the potential to be fantastic for San Antonio. I see the vision, but it's a little blurry right now, right? And as a journalist, I have an obligation to ask questions and bring that picture into focus. Love the idea of a downtown home arena for the Spurs, who, like I said, have been a huge part of San Antonio for half a century. They've committed to spending over $2 billion on a plan that seems to have learned from what went wrong with the last arena, which really isn't their fault. I understand why the Spurs and their fans and their many local leaders are excited to make this happen. Though the mayor's messaging and coalition building have been really ineffective, I understand where she and other members of the community are coming from, wanting more information on behalf of a city that has plenty of pressing problems, including widespread poverty, right? You have people who are saying, and, I think deserve to be heard, like, if we can't keep the streets clean, if we're struggling with this, and that, can we commit to this? On one hand, it's a huge public works project. It should create thousands of jobs, both in the construction of it and once it's fully operational. Love that. On the other hand, the private part of this public-private partnership clearly believes that there's a lot of money to be made here if they do this. You wouldn't invest billions of dollars into something if you didn't think you were going to make billions and billions of dollars. So with that, the city and county need to make sure that it makes sense for their balance sheet and their citizens. I think it's wonderful that they've committed $500 million plus overages, plus another 1.4 billion on the business development side. That's a lot. That's undeniably going to create. It's going to stimulate the local economy in that spot. plus $75 million for early childhood education. Love that. If the almost $500 million that the city is committed to spending can only be spent on stadiums, or it goes back to the state, and it can be recouped with increased taxes in the project finance zone and rent, fantastic.
Tom, I want to stop you right there. It's not if, that is the fact of it. That's the fact of the matter. So it's not coming out of the general fund. And I think that's what, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just think her messaging has just come off as very politicized. I think if we're not telling the full story of what's going on.
It's totally, I'm totally with you on that. Like it's been a failure in messaging, I think, from her side on something that I think, like,
it's fear mongering.
People, there's some of that, and then there's also, like, I also feel like a lot of people can get behind more due diligence, and that's with all of the stuff that I've said about how I think this project can be successful, will be successful. All of these things to like about it, I've still got two very big questions. One, how will the remaining billions of dollars of Project Marvel be financed? That includes renovating the Alamo Dome, Convention Center, pedestrian bridge, all this infrastructure stuff. That might impact the general fund, right? And I'm sort of viewing this, committing to the arena, as a down payment on Project Marvel, right? And you don't want to buy something if you can only afford the down payment, So it's, how can the city guarantee that the entirety of Project Marvel doesn't strain resources and the general fund, especially if things don't go as planned? And two, if it all goes right and the arena does generate billions and billions of revenue in this city, how will the city and its citizens who own the arena share in that success in a way that is felt beyond the downtown entertainment district? Sports fans like to say, like, this will feed families. These teammates, these rivalries will feed families. This project and the arena itself is something that, if done right, if done thoughtfully, can literally feed families in a city where, like, 1 in 4 children under 5 live below the poverty line. And so, like, I want this. I believe in it. I'm excited to learn more details. And I hope it helps as many San Antonians as possible, is sort of where I'm coming at this from.
Yeah, and AB made a point that he's on a taxpayer down in San Antonio. I pay taxes down there, so I this directly involves me, and I'm excited to be involved with it, and kind of be campaigning for this in the right way, and be just not more harsh about things. It is more just like more conversation based. I guess there's an old saying that you put your money where your mouth is. And the Spurs have definitely put their money where their mouth is. They can talk a big game all they want. This is going to do this, this is going to do that. But you kind of said it. If you're putting billions of dollars down, you trust your data. And I get that there are people saying that, hey, we need a second independent report. I think there's a lot that needs to be discussed with this, how this past week has gone down and the optics that it's shown for the city of San Antonio. As someone who's born and raised there, someone who's there 3 times a week, I still find myself in the community a lot, and honestly, for both sides, it wasn't the way it should have gone down. And I think that's my first, that's my main gripe with this whole situation, was didn't need to be a me versus you or us versus them type of conversation. And that's why I've been so frustrated on Twitter, why I've been so frustrated online, because it just gives the notion that, hey, the Spurs are out to get us. But the Spurs have done everything the city's asked them to do the last 2 stadiums that they were forced to move to. They were just fine down the Hemisphere Arena when it was down there. Everything was just okay. And they were forced to move the Alamo Dome because the city said, hey, we're getting a NFL team and an MLB team. And they ended up building the stadium 7 feet too short. Go look it up. That's why they never got an MLB team here in San Antonio, because the stadium is legit 7 feet too small. So that's not the Spurs' fault. That's not the Spurs didn't design the Alamo Dome. They just got told to move there. When the land got donated to them on the east side to say, hey, we're building here, the Spurs had no call on that either. We're doing what you asked. So when the Spurs put down $1.5 billion in public development, what I took from that was you didn't have us involved in the development side the last 2. builds. We weren't involved. We're going to get involved in this because we trust ourselves more than we trust the city right now. Because the city, the last 2 times that we've had you, you didn't have our back. You didn't have the citizens' back around the area as well. 13% of jobs in San Antonio are hospitality jobs. 13%. It's not a high number, but it is a decent amount of people. It's over 100,000 people that have jobs within the market of, hey, you work a hospitality job. The reason that Peter Holt goes up on stage on Thursday and keeps saying urban core, urban core, urban core multiple times. This isn't about the north side. The north side has plenty of money. It's developed. You can go anywhere on the north side and you can feel whatever. This is about the surrounding areas of downtown. The east side touches downtown. The south side touches downtown. You can get to either one of those sides of town on a bike, on a bus, building a whole core down there where they're saying we're moving back to the hemisphere where the Spurs originally started. That's a big deal. We're moving close to the Riverwalk. That's a big deal. What I mentioned last week is I don't think there's an economic report to say, hey, what does this do for the city of San Antonio? There's nothing that can really replicate what downtown is for San Antonio. And so when the Spurs put their money where their mouth is, I tend to want to trust it. When do the Spurs, 9 times out of 10, put themselves in situations that they won't benefit from? Or they're going to be on the bad side of things, on player development, coach development, with the way they build things, with the community, with the relationships they build. I just don't see it as like the picture that was painted about the Spurs over the last 2 weeks is like they're out to get us, they're bad people. And that's the part that really caught me off guard when it's like we're working together to make this city great, as Tom says, as you say. I think there's an opportunity for this to be fantastic. I do agree with
one of the big miscalculations from the mayor was not coming at it from a collaborative, let's figure out something that works for this gigantic part of our community and everybody who lives in it. That's all you got to say, and
but you don't have to go
right,
fight with them.
It was confrontational, and I think there will be a lot more, fleshed out talking about the economic impact, and 1, how it'll be a boon, and 2, how it will not be a drain on the general fund, the entire project I'm talking about. But I think it's in the Spurs' best interest to make it as transparent and open a process as possible. Not necessarily that a pause would have been great for that, but honestly, more than I'd like to see more, an economic impact study that isn't, done by a company that has any financial ties to the Spurs. I think that would be great. Just again, as a journalist and in the interest of transparency. But honestly, what I'm more interested in is the specifics of the negotiations of, is there going to be a split on operating revenue, on naming rights, concessions, ticket sales, that kind of thing? Is there going to, what other mechanisms other than incremental tax and rent are the city going to have to make this a profit center for the city as well? And we're seeing the development in out by Atlanta, which is a little different because it's not city center, but where the Braves are playing, that whole development is, turning a profit for the city faster than they thought it would, which is great. So it can be done. It can be that's I think the disappointing part is how divided it got on, you have an unnecessarily adversarial relationship with a community partner who, obviously it's a corporation, and I think that people should be skeptical of corporations and governments. But if the corporation seems to be working in good faith, right? And they're beloved in the city, even if you're just purely from a political, what is good for me as a political animal, right? Picking a fight with one of the most popular entities, probably the most popular entity in the city, is not a good strategy call, right? Where instead it could have been leading with I think this is a good idea and I want to make it work. I just need a little more info. I need to know more about the revenue splits. So Yeah, I think now that this term sheet has been voted on and approved, a lot of the people who voted for it said we want voters in Bexar County to have as much information before they vote in November as possible, and this is a step toward achieving that. So, if that's the case, I say hell yeah. Let's get that information, baby. And yeah, like I said, I think it's a good idea. I'm excited to see how great an idea it can be. And yeah. Any other last thoughts on Project Marvel here before we take a safety break?
Also, just want to give a quick shout out to my boy Christian Beanhorn, who was one of the 100+ people to talk to the mayor, and I think he was great. It gave a great perspective on what an urban core means to a big city, and broke it down. He's a rancher and understands that as the city grows, it takes up the farmlands down in like South Texas and whatnot. So growing a big urban core, downtown San Antonio, walkable, safe, and it also keeps the agriculture side of things kind of safe too, which I didn't. It's a different perspective on things that obviously I would never think about because I don't ranch cattle like he does. But yeah, he gave a great speech. He's a diehard Spurs fan. Him and I grew up together, and just want to give a shout out to him. I DM'd him afterwards and said, "You spoke for all of us. We really do appreciate that." So it was a great talk.
I gotta say, man, I hadn't considered the impact on farmland.
See,
but like, I think that to me, that really speaks to an example of how complicated and far-reaching the effects of this project can be. So, yeah, but that's really cool to think about. I'm
right?
gonna think about that some more.
Yeah,
That's a cool
I'll actually
perspective.
send you the book he referenced too, and it was really interesting when he put it down. He was like, as we keep expanding as a city, we get into those rural lands that are used for other uses instead of people.
San Antonio, in particular, is a city that sprawls quite
Right.
a bit. So yeah, that's actually really, really fascinating to think about. Thank you, Zach. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that was a great perspective. And yeah, like we don't need San Antonio to grow into Jordanton. Even though completely unrelated to this, I did have my car break down outside of a friend's ranch in Jordanton one time. So that's a whole nother story for another day. I was really hungover and like 21 or something. But yeah, broke down in the middle of a field.
To be there. Yeah.
It wasn't great. All that being said, I really appreciate that perspective.
Good convo, guys. Very good, productive convo. On a very a topic that's a lot.
Pivoting now off to some. Well, what people always really enjoy talking about as well online is Spurs rumors, and the Spurs are always in these. And Jake Fisher came out on Friday with a rumor saying that the Spurs and the Pelicans had talked briefly about Trey Murphy. Not the first time that we've heard these rumors before. Even Trey Murphy was on a podcast talking about how much he loves Carter Bryant. All that being said, the only reason I bring this up and why I think it's interesting is the last two seasons right before in September, so right before people go to training camp, we've seen large trades with teams. We saw Donovan Mitchell get traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers 2 seasons ago, and then last season we saw Karl Anthony Towns get traded to the Knicks. So I personally don't think that the Spurs are going to pony up unless they get like another team involved for kind of the value of a Trey Murphy. So with that being said, I just think like it's probably not happening, but to see like an initial, bigger name get thrown out there, I thought was interesting. On top of, we have a very intriguing draft class for teams that might be offloading players. So before I go on, I mean, Zach or Tom, y'all got anything on this rumor or any just initial thoughts?
The rumor.
Yeah, a little off-season scuttlebutt never hurt
Everyone's
nobody.
bored. They're just putting the Spurs name into it again.
I think if there is interest, and I mean, listen, Trey Murphy, talented player, would fit like way more talented than people give him credit for. But I don't think anything happens going into the season. I do think that if the Spurs are to make a trade closer to the trade deadline, that's exactly the type of player that would fit really well. If there's a consolidation, but and we'll get into this in the Q&A part, but team building wise, I don't think that's what the Spurs are into right now.
I don't think so either. Yeah.
What do you think about Trey Murphy as a player, though?
Love him. He'd fit like a glove, but I think he'd fit like a glove on basically every team in the NBA. He's kind of the quintessential, jackknife player that I think you plug him in any situation, and you've seen him in not the most favorable position in New Orleans thrive. So to put him in a situation like the Spurs be great. He's someone, could see him. Yeah, once again, you could see him on any team. He's going to be a name out there. And I think further is that, like, as the season progresses, you'll see teams do some egregious tanking if this draft class is to the potential is to be believed. So there will be a lot of sellers maybe come the trade deadline, or if someone gets hurt, beginning of the season, and they're just like, well, we got to play some guys, but we got to offload these, either making, their moves for like the future, which is kind of like something I think the Nets are doing as well. But as far as like in the West, like a team to keep an eye on for that sort of thing, I would say it's the Pelicans. Probably still want to look at the Jazz, whether Ori Markkinen, like a name there, wants to continue to stay, which there's been no indications he wants to leave. Or if they just want to build around the young core. So there's like a lot of timelines that got to sync up for these things. So, yeah, but September, even though it's like about to be real quiet before training camp, there is an opportunity for one last big domino to fall right before the season begins.
Cool.
Yeah.
Should we get into the mailbag?
Let's get into mailbag. Fan questions.
Thank you, everybody who asked your questions. And we're sorry we didn't get to them last week. It was just, obviously, we had a lot to talk about. I tried to organize these so we could go sort of looking back and then looking forward, and then, sort of big picture where we think this team is going to be next year. So one of the questions we got was a favorite win from last season. Zach, I'm going to start with you. Is there one that just jumps out into your mind? Favorite game from last year?
The Atlanta Hawks game at home.
What about it?
It was a great game of basketball. Victor was unbelievable. 10 straight points there in the overtime after getting dunked on. I think that was a big game for him.
That was the Icarus game. Yes, because was it Dyson Daniels dunked on him?
No, it was
Jalen
Johnson dunked on him.
No. It was DeAndre. It was Hunter.
Was it Hunter?
Yeah, it was Hunter.
Yeah, I'm inventing the memory now, but like,
yeah, it was Hunter.
I remember it.
That was probably my favorite win from last season. Just overtime, your star player really he gets put on a poster in a game, or it's first time he'd been put on a poster probably his whole career like that, and really came out second part or overtime and drug the team to a victory. So
it was a real like he's him moment,
Yeah,
I feel like that's how I sort of define these in a season like last year. How I define like the success or a moment that sticks with me is when I can see into the future with that moment. And what that showed me about the future was very wonderful. So I'm with you on that one. I think for me, I know I just said about the future, but I'll never stop thinking about the Flava Flav game. I will never, ever, ever stop thinking about Flava Flav and Sandro Mamukelashvili. Incredible scenes. Um, if I'm going with the future angle, though, I know it was Washington, but watching Wemby and Fox each score 30 uh, against on the road against the Wizards was like, that was the clearest glimpse that I have had into the future of what that particular pairing can be and what that will mean for the Spurs. So that's one that I think about sometimes as well. AB, what about you?
It kind of actually changed my mind when you're talking about like glimpsing into the future. And so I think this is more of like a, 2020 vision into the past. But the first Paris game against the Indiana Pacers, we didn't know what the Pacers were going to become, and that was kind of the beginning of like their momentum into becoming a more dominant team. Uh, but that was a real team win in Paris. So there was a bit of a Victor Wembanyama homecoming for that game. I remember him going off in that game. I remember Jeremy Sochan having some great dunks. This was actually before De'Aaron Fox was even on the team. So yeah, I think I'd put down that one as one that really sticks out into my mind of like the future potential. The one I was actually also going to say was that game against Portland in Portland where Jeremy Sochan took over in the fourth quarter. And we all talked about like, see, the point Sochan experiment paid off, down the road. So
yeah, that was a good
so
one.
yeah,
That was gratifying.
those were fun ones. Y'all mind if
Cool.
I take the next question?
Go for it.
All right. Talking about favorite win, favorite loss. Um, Now I don't think there's probably like I don't like watching my team lose, but
Right. The
Zach, who would
Christmas. Oh,
yeah,
go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say Zach, what's your favorite loss from last season, or
I don't have a favorite loss.
a memorable loss is maybe the better way
there's
to.
no there is they're all bad memories to me.
That's what I was gonna say. Was the Christmas Day game like it was the most entertaining game. Wemby went ape shit. It was, but like it also like fucked up my Christmas.
My whole Christmas, I had to go on a walk afterwards.
Yeah, like man, I'm supposed to be enjoying my day with family. Now I'm all mad about a basketball game. I'm kidding. But kind of.
I was the same way.
The Christmas loss felt like a playoff loss.
Yeah.
Like that, like in the course of the regular season, I can usually be kind of like, you win some, lose some, like whatever. But like that one especially, I was like, ugh. So yeah,
Great game.
another one, and Jeremy got hurt in this game was that Clippers loss where we were up by 40 points.
Yeah.
And Amir Coffey went off.
These are the worst losses of the season to me. These are like emotionally traumatizing or like set forth a chain of events that would be, not good for the Spurs. Because I remember that Clippers game, it was like right after that was a very rough streak for the team, as I recall. So they played great for so much of that game, and it was like, man, this is really great. And then, especially with Jeremy's injury, things got to tough sledding. I really enjoyed, because I was sort of looking back through the schedule. Remember when, for some reason, they played a game in San Antonio against the Nuggets, and then beat the brakes off them, and then got on a plane to Denver, and the next day we're in Denver playing in overtime.
Yeah,
Like it was like a late collapse. It was like that game, it was like went to overtime and they ran out of gas, and that stunk. But like to take Jokic's Nuggets, to beat him in the first game, go on the road, like back to back to Denver is schedule wise the last thing you want to see as an NBA player. for your body, for your recovery, for playing against Jokic and his boys. Nobody wants to do that, and they took him to overtime. So that was one where it was like, I don't really do moral victories, but that was one where I saw it and I was like, huh, okay, show me something here. Yeah, like that one. Next question here, looking forward to the 25-26 season. From on Twitter, T.Y. Michael Brooks, who's been following for a very long time. Thank you, man. Appreciate you. What's more important just for 25-26? One or more of Wemby, Castle, Harper, Sochan, or Fox takes a substantial 3-point percentage jump, or a jump on the defensive side, but no shooting. Which of those things will be better? Zach, I'll start with you.
Dude, my language. Who gives a fuck about defense in modern day NBA? You better learn how to shoot the ball.
I think these Spurs will give a shit about defense.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying, in context of the question, I think the defense, it's a make or miss league. You better learn how to make the damn basketball.
Yeah, that's a fair take. AB.
I would probably say that I would rather see the shooting come along specifically for Stephon Castle from 3, even if it just gets to closer to league average or closer to where he was shooting near the end of the season. Look, as long as Victor Wembanyama is healthy, the defense will take care of itself. At this point, we didn't really know what the defensive rating was by the end of the season, with him anchoring it throughout the whole season. So yeah.
I think it's what a time as Spurs fans to be able to take defensive growth almost for granted. Like, it's gonna happen, just regardless. The coaching staff, the additions to the coaching staff, which we talked a little bit about, these are coaches who are clearly focused on the defensive end of the floor. So I'm expecting a defensive leap. I am hoping for a shooting leap. I think that in terms of which swings, I think the defense alone and just the individual growth of some of these players and them playing together, even if the shooting isn't great, I think the individual growth is going to lead to a lot. But if there is a shooting leap, that could be the thing that takes this from a playoff team to a top 4 team, from a from a good team to a great team, from a great team to a contender. So, and I think team building wise, once those guys start checking that box over and over and over again, really good, that makes some things more clear. So I'm more interested in the shooting, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, they were the 20th best shooting team in the league from 3-point last year. So you bump it up, maybe top 10, where you can make your argument that they're going to be a lot better team because of that.
It's a few percentage points, right, Zach? Like if we improve like our shooting like 2%, it like jumps up pretty drastically.
The difference between 10th and 5th is a 1%. 1%.
Yeah.
But I mean, you do the math over a period of time that adds up. So
yeah. Well, Zach, you want to take the next question?
it is the am I crazy for thinking this will be sort of a breakout year for Jeremy Sochan? I think this year he will finally be in his natural position and thrive. Year 1, did good, but injury. Year 2, point guard experiment. Year 3, solid start, injury, then backup center. Year 4, looking promising. This is from Brian. Thanks for the question, Brian. What do y'all got on that?
I don't think it's crazy to think it could or even should be a leap year for him. I've been doing this a long time. I try not to take stock or put too much stock into videos of NBA players shooting jump shots in empty gyms in the summer months. I try to avert my eyes from such things because I've seen Ben Simmons hit a bunch of those, you know. But what I do look at with those is the form. And Jeremy Sohan's 3-point shooting form looks way better to me. There's no more two-factor authentication from what I've seen. Still a little wonkiness, but if it's more refined, if it's going in, if he is the wrecking ball on defense that he has shown himself to be, and that offensive game continues to grow, yeah, I think it, and especially if he's starting at the beginning of the year, which I'm interested to see what his role is, because if you ask me who's a better player right now, Harrison Barnes or Jeremy Sochan, I mean, Harrison Barnes was so good at shooting the three last year. I think Jeremy Sochan can make a case that right now he's a better all-around player than Harrison Barnes. I know for sure that when it comes time for this Spurs team to win some championships or at least compete for them, my guess is the people in that building see Jeremy Sochan as a very important part of that. So I'm interested to see what they give him next year in terms of role and expectations, and how that gets him further down the road toward that. AB, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, the roster construction now seems to be at a place where he can play his more natural positions rather than having to be the backup 4 or the backup 5, I should say. So I can definitely see a breakout year from him. And to your point, Tom, with like the shooting videos, he's shooting off the bounce with those. It's not just catch and shoot. He's like dribbling into a spot and doing it. And further, I mean, he had a little tweak during Eurobasket. So he's already back in San Antonio. And De'Aaron Fox decided not to go to China on his tour. So we just saw pictures released by the team that a number of the players are in San Antonio already working out at the practice facility together. And so I think that it's not a full-on conspiracy theory, but I just have a feeling that this team has decided this year to truly rally around one another and make this a special season that I'm really excited for. So I hope that coincides with a breakout year for Jeremy, for his sake, because he still hasn't had his contract, his extension come up yet. It might still. But if it doesn't and he goes out and further performs this next season, and then he gets extended next off season, great. We all know that we're Jeremy Sochan fans here. So stands, get ready to stand up, I think in the next season. Zach, what do you got on Jeremy?
Man, it's a big year for him. Money-wise, contract-wise. I like Jeremy. I think Jeremy has a lot of potential of what he's supposed to do. I just don't know if it's going to be off the bench or starting. Last year, I made the comment that I think he's better off the bench of this current roster build, and I'm going to stick with that too right now. I think there's a lot more opportunity for him to be the player he wants to be, active with that second unit. I think with having Harrison, but like that's not no shade to him. I just think it allows him to be more expressive of how good a basketball player he is. With the way the way the roster is built right now, I think it benefits him to be the psycho guy off the bench with that crew, and I think for me, he's gonna flourish this year, whatever role he gets. I just want the ball in his hands a lot more than if he's with the starting lineup. You got De'Aaron Fox already out there. You got Wemby out there. You got two dudes that are going to take a lot of the shots away from Jeremy in this situation, where I think the best spot for him to thrive is ball in his hand, shooting just very, very free in what he's supposed to be doing out there. And that's the type of player he is. You can tell when he plays free, he plays a completely different basketball player. I do like him in the dunker spot. I think there are lineups when Wemby is taking 10 threes a game, You have Jeremy in that dunker spot down below, and I think him and De'Aaron Fox would be fantastic together. It just kind of depends on what Mitch wants to do with this roster. I think he has. It's funny looking at the roster from 2 years ago compared to now. It's a completely different team. It's not the same team as it was. The roster turnover has been pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it's been massive.
So it's not, and I think just in terms of like for Jeremy, for him to thrive, it's ball in his hand, and it's just how many times is he going to get shots with that starting lineup? That's my only concern with him. I don't want that to stifle his growth. I guess that's what I'm saying. It's like I just feel like that could be a detriment more than a positive for him. And this point of his career, I want him shooting the ball. I want to see that shot. The only time he get better is when you actually do it.
Moving on to the next one from Nava Bar 8780 in the YouTube comments. It looks like all the NBA podcast analysts don't like the future of Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle, and De'Aaron Fox trio. If you can see the front office mindset, what was the reason for signing Fox for that new contract? Zach, why the hell did the Spurs front office sign De'Aaron Fox to that nice new contract?
But he's a fucking badass basketball player. What do you want me to break it down? Why? I'll just make it very simple. He's a dog. I'm excited to see him play with a nice pinky this year in his left hand. And I'm
even though he has the same NBA 2K rating as Austin Reeves.
Yeah, I don't base my opinions off NBA 2K. And personally, I think those three guys can coexist. We talked about this before. The more ball handlers you have, the better off you're going to be. There'll be some nights when somebody's off, some nights when all three are on, some nights when all three are off, some nights when one's holding the ship together. And, this is basketball. Like, you want the more guys that can put the ball in the position to succeed, the better. Shocking take.
Yeah, I think obviously, like, when the Spurs made the trade for Fox, they didn't know they'd get Harper. There's obviously some overlap in terms of, role and skill with the two of them and Stephon Castle. But if the area of overlap is dynamic downhill playmaking, I think that's good. I like that. I think that there's a lot to build on there. Team still has tons of flexibility, short term and long term, and I also look at it as a promises made, promises kept thing. Is probably NBA is a fraternity. Players can see when teams do players dirty, and I think that when De'Aaron Fox made it clear that the only place he wanted to play was San Antonio, there was probably an understanding that this deal was going to be coming in the offseason. So,
yeah. Zach, I think you made a great point, especially on, just playmakers on the floor. And I think sometimes with these other analysts and podcasts, like there's this idea that Stephon Castle and De'Aaron Fox are ball dominant, and Dylan Harper is also going to be ball dominant. And look, there are possessions where they will not let anybody touch the ball, sure. But I would not call them ball dominant players anyway. I kind of see a willingness to share the rock in the first place. The other part of it is when I hear kind of that critique of like, quote unquote, too many playmakers, people that can get the ball to a place where, the offensive possession could succeed. I'm like, what is your archetype of a roster build? Because I think sometimes it's like, okay, so you can only have two playmakers on your team, but then you only need to have like one real center, but then you got to have a rim running center. And it's just like, I think sometimes, and maybe because like if you're a fan of these various podcasts or whatever, like you have an understanding of already what the host thinks for like a successful team. But we've definitely seen, along with the last few years, and that we have multiple different champions and different types of champions. And I once again reiterate on the Indiana Pacers. That was a team that people were like, you can't play that fast and like that chaotic and make it to the championship. And you know what? They did. So, look, I am echoing the same thing y'all are. It's good for relationships around the league, and it's great to have multiple playmakers on the floor. So that's why I disagree with some of these other podcasters when they come out and make that critique. So
I think this is a good sort of segue into the next question, which is from the Sangaria 896. Is it better to leave
I
the
think
roster
it's the
as it is?
Sangarai.
The Sangarai? Whatever it is. Whoever you are, you asked, is it better to leave the roster as it is and continue to watch them grow? Or do we jump at the opportunity if it presents itself for a Giannis trade? But if that takes, wouldn't the roster we stripped, and at best we would be between 4th and 6th seed? Good question. And in asking it, you've answered some of it. But kind of going back to the way we were talking about the last question, I think that when I see discourse about how the NBA has changed, and I'm not talking about like back to when Jordan was playing, I'm talking about like in the last 5 or even 10 years, like how has the NBA changed since the bubble? You know, one of the main things that I see and agree with is that your average NBA role player has gotten so much better. There used to be a lot of guys on the roster who could do one or two things. You know, that was their main NBA skill. And they were super limited offensively, you know? So we've seen so much offensive growth. And the Spurs have so many players on their roster that have the potential to be even more. Devin Vassell, I know he had an off season last year, wasn't his best. It was his birthday the other day. You know how he's 25 years old. Like that prefrontal cortex is still going, you know? Like these guys are all bebés. And so from that perspective, and then also from the perspective that the Spurs are trying to build a franchise that contends in perpetuity, you know, for the next 10 plus years, they want to build something that lasts that long. You got to build something like that patiently. You can't build something like that rashly, which we've discussed on the show a lot. So I don't see them making a trade for Giannis at the deadline. I do see the Spurs making a consolidation trade of some sort at the deadline. Not for an all-star player, but for like a really, 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 really good player.
I think we're forgetting that there is a certain player with 1 year left on his contract that we pay $20 million a year. That you could easily move, package with another player, whatnot, to match at the trade deadline. Not going to mention any names or anything, but there is a certain player, and we'll just leave it at that. But I don't think we'll trade for Giannis.
It would gut me like a fish if Keldon Johnson was traded. You won't say the name, I'll say the name. But
Keldon's 17 million, so I don't think he's talking about Keldon.
No, 17 million.
He is talking about Keldon.
I am talking about Keldon.
But we can talk like this about Kelly Olynyk. We don't know him yet, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that the trade that brought Kelly Olynyk to San Antonio, that also indicated the same thing to me, because that was increasing the cap, right? And it's a non-aggregated deal, so it can be used, like his contract can be used in a deadline deal, which gets that number up even higher. So that's sort of where I'm at with it.
I honestly think the only way this roster gets tinkered with during the season is if the Spurs are not in playoff contention. I think if they're in playoff contention, I would not be surprised if they stand pat through the rest of the season. But if they aren't, to your point, Tom, I think there becomes like a consolidation type trade moving forward for someone. But if they're already in playoff contention and it feels a bit solidified by the trade deadline, I wouldn't see them doing anything. So,
cool.
I don't know.
We got two related ones here. From Shave the Barber.
Got my barber. What up, Trevor?
Kevo Trevo. About Mitch Johnson. It's his first year with the full reins of the program. Is he the coach of the future? Is he the guy for the Spurs? Zach, what do you think?
I mean, the way he's going about things, he seems to have full control over what's going on, bringing his guys in. Some few interesting additions to the coaching staff. And so I don't even know what I'm more excited about this season. Am I more excited to see Wemby play with Fox, Wemby's growth, or is it the fact that it's the first time in 20 plus years there's a different guy on the bench? Last year, obviously, he was on the bench, but we talked about this, it wasn't his team. This is his team. This is his roster. This is his coaching staff. And I just am excited to see what type of brand of basketball he's going to implement with this team. We talked about the 5-out that he was doing a lot last year, but Wemby wasn't around when he was doing that. So does he keep it when Wemby's back? How are they going to use the 2 bigs? I mean, he has the 3 bigs, excuse me. He has a lot of tools in his tool chest that I don't think Popovich had over the last few years. And I think Pop was okay with that because he understood what the situation was. I don't think Mitch is okay with it, was okay with it, would have been okay with it. I think he's very excited with what this team is being built up to be. And I think a young coach with a young team, we've seen what happened in Boston. We've seen what happened in Oklahoma City. When you bring these young, not unproven, but these young guys with a different idea, with a different mindset that fit more with the team. I'm very excited. I don't know if he's excited because I think he brought in a few coaches to take over his Wemby role pregame. But I think other than that, he's good.
I mean, he is to that point. I don't really know about like, is he the coach for us or not? He's the coach we got, right?
Mm-hmm.
And does, to your point, Zach, seem like he has full reins. But everybody he's brought in on this coaching staff to be on the bench with him has a defensive focus. So what that tells me is that he will probably have more of the offensive focus of the team, maybe pairing that a little bit with Sean Sweeney as kind of his, lead assistant coach. So I do see that like there is a vision for him. I think he's addressed some of the things that, we commented about last season, specifically around transition defense and rebounds. Well, he went and got the guy that was headed at for one of the top defenses the last 2 years with also a French big man in Corliss Williamson. He went out and talked to this guy, Sean Sweeney, who there has been nothing but raves about with him on the bench. Brett Brown moving now more into a front office role. So who is also the recent guy that they just announced?
Well, Scott King for the G League.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Scott King, friend of the show. Thanks, Zach. I mean, a lot of people don't realize it, but Tom, I remember last season you pulled their defensive rating statistic, and it was essentially close to like 10 points better, or it was an extremely high number for like where the Austin Spurs were defensively.
It was the best in the league. It was one of the best in like the last 10 years of the G League. And in a league where they don't play defense, right? If you're asking who cares about defense, Zach, in the NBA, they care even less in the G League. But like I totally agree with what you're saying, AB. I think, and you've talked a lot about sort of some of the more novel offensive concept, at least novel to San Antonio, right? Because like you said, Zach, he's got more tools, right? He's got modern tools, but I think he's got also some modern ideas on how to implement them, right? And so, yeah, I'm really, really excited to see that, and I think we're going to learn a lot more about Mitch Johnson as a coach and what his philosophies and what his styles are. I don't think it's going to be straight Missoula ball. I don't think they're going to put up 63s a game, but I think we're going to see some stuff that doesn't look like your dad's San Antonio Spurs basketball.
Well, also they hired Tim Martin, Wemby's ex-trainer, who had trained him since he was like 16 years old. And that's why I made the joke about I don't think Mitch Johnson will be warming up Wemby pregame like he used to. I think that might be old Timmy's job now.
I don't know. Speaking of that, there is a great profile about Tim Martin in D Magazine. You just Google Tim Martin D Magazine. That's D as in Dallas because he used to be as a part of the Mavericks franchise. But I highly suggest anybody who's interested in that and who that guy is. So it's a great written profile on it. Let's move on to the last two questions here. From Spurs McNullah, what is your dream season for the Spurs this coming season? Who contributes and how? Who steps up? What happens during the season? Makes the playoffs? How many rounds before elimination? Zach, your dream season. Dream season.
I mean, we haven't been in the playoffs in 7 years, so I would like to get back into the playoffs. I miss playoff games. I think a dream season for me would be playoffs. Wemby's healthy the whole season. De'Aaron Fox and Wemby look great. I would love to go to Fiesta and a Spurs game in the same night. So let's make it happen this year. That only happens if they make the playoffs. That's why I say that.
It's a good attainable dream. I like that. We're not getting too crazy. But like if I'm dreaming, if I'm being asked to dream, I'm gonna lucid dream. And if I'm lucid dreaming, it's gonna be a cool, like crazy wild dream. Like it's gonna be unattainably good, like but absolute like best case scenario. I think Wemby MVP candidate is on the table this year. He could win it. Fox All-Star, Harper Rookie of the Year, Sochan ascending, Devin coming back and having a great season, Castle coming into his own, great minutes for the olds who were there, and yeah, hang the banner, man, or like deep playoff run at least, like win a series, like win 2 series, like I'm choosing to because and I think a dream like that is maybe not as unattainable as it might seem on its face because you look at the Pacers. Did anybody see the Pacers making this run except the most delusional Pacers fans? Probably not, right? I mean, they were helped with devil magic, obviously. But the Spurs now have an alien. So, given the supernatural, component of things, yeah, sure. That's my dream. What about you, AB?
Well, like you, Tom, if I'm really like dreaming, they win 2 championships this next season. They win the NBA Cup and they win the NBA championship. Wemby wins MVP. Dylan Harper not only wins Rookie of the Year, but he snatches Shang Tsung style from Mortal Kombat, the soul of Cooper Flagg. And Anthony Davis is rocked like a baby in Wemby's arms after he blocks him 10 times in a game. That would be a dream season for me.
Can I add that Wemby dunks on Chet so hard that Chet transforms into like an apple and then it quickly rots.
Yeah, this is a dream, fellas. I mean, so I'm going first all imagination here. I see in my dream
We need to get a little more
LeBron
Dali with it,
LeBron James literally takes off his crown and hands it to Wemby as the new king of the NBA. Um, I also see Wemby's Shaolin monk training coming in. Y'all ever seen the movie Shaolin Soccer?
No.
If y'all haven't, it's an amazing, amazing movie. I highly recommend. Very campy. I would love to see Wemby take some of his Shaolin training and be able to jump into the rafters of the Frost Bake Center to block any and everything. And it's kind of like stuns the refs so much that they're like, we've never seen that. We don't know if that's actually goaltending.
Like Hank in Avengers or X-Men First Class, like able to hang from the ceiling.
Yeah,
with
yeah. We have some
feet.
yeah, we have some real Teen Wolf type stuff going on, but it's with Wemby.
Teen Wolf traveled, by the way.
Yes, he did. There's a lot of problems in that movie besides that, but reeling it back in maybe more to the reality. Look, high end expectations would be that they make it to the second round. I personally would not like to see them go to the conference championship. And here's why. We've talked about this so many times. I think there's a pathway to success in this league. If they took a jump over that pathway and they got through the first round and the second, that's great. I think sometimes when teams, and I'll use the Atlanta Hawks as an example, that one year that Trey Young went hot, got them already all the way to the conference championship. And then they've been in this purgatory ever since because there becomes this expectation that like Trey Young can do this. And it stunted the rest of the growth of the team with what they thought they had or didn't have. And so for the sake of growth and like leading to like long-term championship success, let's, keep Wemby in the MVP conversation. If he becomes the story of the league, I think he gets it. And second round exit would be pretty great. With that being said, can I just jump to our last one then?
From Senor Spurs.
From Senor Spurs. What record and standing do you think the Spurs will end the season with? This is our last one, so we'll dip out after this. Zach, what do you got?
The over-under is 43.5. I see it maybe like 48 and 34, 47 and 33, somewhere around there. I definitely hit the over. But I see both y'all have some pretty optimistic outlooks on it, and I appreciate that. But I'm gonna keep it a little even keeled over here and say that I don't think they do that, but I think they do a lot better. They do better than what Vegas expects, and I think that's a win for me as well. And I think anything above the top, anything that's not a play-in game, I'm happy with.
Yeah, I think I've said top 6 for a while in the West, and so I'm kind of like at least keeping my expectations within that framework right now. That's why my prediction is at like a 50 plus win season. The reason I say that, I think everybody's in San Antonio. I think there's real hunger around this team. We praise them here because we're a San Antonio Spurs podcast, but like I'm not sure how much the rest of the league really does. So I really feel like that there's a lot of redemption between Wemby wanting to show off what he can do healthy, De'Aaron Fox showing what he can do healthy, Jeremy Sochan being put in a position of strength, Stephon Castle showing that last year wasn't a fluke. Dylan Harper is just from New Jersey, so that dude already has a chip on his shoulder. So Carter Bryant is a nasty athletic defender as well. So we just have a lot of dudes ready to prove themselves, I feel like, in the upcoming season.
So I'm with you. I feel you. I think they're gonna win 50 games this year. As great as the West was last year, do you know how many teams won 50 games in the West? won more than 50 games in the West.
4?
Only 2.
Oh, wow.
We had 4 teams won, 3 teams won 50, and then 49, 48, 48. So those top 8, 48 wins. But only teams in the West that won more than 50 games last year were the Rockets and the Thunder. That's kind of crazy. Like, that, I think, really shows how hard it is in this current league with all the parity that it has to get beyond that 50 win. I think it's going to be 50 on the nose. In that 48 to 50 range, but I'm feeling lucky. I'm feeling optimistic. I'm feeling like Wemby is actually genuinely going to be a top 3 MVP candidate this season. And I think the Spurs not just get back to the playoffs, but win a playoff series.
Oh, yeah. Well, with that, another episode in the can. We'll figure out some other things in September, but we do have at the end of that month training camp beginning and Labor Day in between.
It's a holiday.
What do you guys got to say before signing off?
Thanks for tapping in and tuning in. We appreciate the listens.
Love you guys. And yeah, thank you for hanging out with us. We're having fun. We're having like a really, really, like, as much as things are looking up for the Spurs, and they are, it would be hard for a podcast to have an outlook as rosy as the Spurs have, but I think ours is pretty good. You know, I believe in what we're doing in here. That's my alarm. But yeah, go Spurs go. We'll see you guys soon. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, like and subscribe. Be kind to one another. NASCAR playoffs coming up. That should be fun. Yeah, that's it for me. You got anything, AB?
No, just echo those sentiments. Thanks to everyone, and probably see you in a couple weeks. Peace.
Later.